It was a cold winter night in 2003 when a series of chilling murders shook a quiet town in rural China. The killings were brutal and swift, leaving entire families annihilated in the dead of night, and then it happened again and again. Who was this man who could strike fear into the hearts of an entire nation, leaving a trail of bloodshed across several provinces? What was his motivation? Was it madness, revenge, or something deeper? This is the story of Yang Xinhai, a Chinese man whose hatred for society led him to take 65 innocent lives, one horrifying act at a time. Yang's killing spree began in 2001 in the heart of China's farming communities. He was born into a life marked by poverty and hardship, and it seemed as though his resentment for society had been growing for years. Yang had always been an isolated figure. He spent his youth moving from one place to another, never forming strong bonds with anyone. He was quiet, unremarkable, and yet something dark and sinister was brewing inside him. In the small, quiet towns of China's northern provinces, families lived in fear of the dark. But they had no idea that their fear would soon become a reality that would claim the lives of 65 innocent people. It began innocently enough. Neighbors spoke of a strange man walking the streets, but no one thought much of it. After all, he wasn't the only one. It was only when the bodies started piling up that anyone began to ask, who was this monster? Yang's pattern was methodical. He would break into homes under the cover of darkness, armed with a hammer or an axe, and methodically murder everyone inside. No one was spared, men, women, and children alike. The crimes were so gruesome, the victims so helpless, it was clear that this was no ordinary killer. It was a quiet evening in the village of Changping when Yang broke into the Li family's home. The family had just finished dinner when the front door creaked open. The first sound was the crushing blow of a hammer striking the father's skull. Before the children could react, their mother too was struck down. Yang was quick, efficient. There was no mercy in his actions. Each family he visited met the same horrifying fate. His victims were left lifeless in their beds, their homes stained with the blood of loved ones. The killings were sudden, but they were also meticulously planned. Yang's ability to sneak into homes undetected was chilling. His choice of weapons, heavy hammers and axes, allowed him to create a sense of terror with each strike. The weight of the hammer, the swift motion of his attack, it was a brutal and terrifying scene to witness. The worst part? There were no witnesses, only the bloody remnants of his victims, and the silent whisper of fear that spread through the community as the deaths continued. As the bodies mounted, so did the fear. Local authorities were faced with the impossible task of catching an elusive killer. Families began locking their doors, windows, anything to keep out the monster who roamed freely. The police had few clues to go on: no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing to indicate who was behind the violence. But one thing was clear: the killer seemed to be targeting families in their own homes, and he had a particular method of attack. Investigators began to notice patterns in the crimes. Despite his randomness, his attacks were eerily similar, each victim bludgeoned to death with a blunt instrument. Some described the killer as a shadow, a faceless terror lurking just beyond their reach. It wasn't until the death toll reached an unbearable number that investigators made a breakthrough. The breakthrough came in the form of a witness who had seen a man acting suspiciously in a rural area, shortly before the attack. It was then that the police discovered Yang. He had been working odd jobs in the villages, and they soon realized that many of his past employers had complained of his erratic behavior. They also found that he had been arrested on several occasions for petty crimes, but each time he was released without serious charges. It was during one of these investigations that Yang's dark secrets began to unravel. After a long, drawn-out investigation, Yang was eventually arrested in February 2004. His capture marked the end of his reign of terror, but the damage was already done. Yang confessed to the murders, revealing that he had killed out of a deep-seated hatred for society. He spoke with chilling indifference about his actions, as though they were nothing more than a necessary task. He explained that he killed because he felt alienated, because he wanted to make people suffer as he had suffered. The trial was a media sensation. In the courtroom, Yang appeared emotionless, detached from the horrific crimes he had committed. He showed no remorse, no empathy, only an eerie calmness as the charges against him were read aloud. Yang was sentenced to death by lethal injection. His execution in 2004 brought a grim sense of closure to the families who had suffered in his wake. But for many, the scars of the past would never heal. The community was left to pick up the pieces. struggling to understand how a man could harbor such hatred, how he could take so many lives without a second thought. Yang's crimes left an indelible mark on the communities he terrorized, a mark that would take years to fade. Yang's story is a reminder that even in the quietest corners of the world, darkness can take root. He was a man with a troubled past, a deep resentment for the world around him, and a murderous rage that knew no bounds. His crimes are a reminder that even the safest communities can be shattered in an instant. Even those who seem ordinary, invisible, can carry with them the capacity for unimaginable violence. But his story also serves as a cautionary tale, the danger of ignoring the cracks in our society, the silent anger that simmers beneath the surface. It's easy to dismiss those who don't fit the mold, to push them aside. But as Yang's killing spree shows, that could be a mistake we all pay for. As the world continues to change, we must remember that the quietest voices may hide the darkest secrets. And sometimes the monsters aren't lurking in the shadows, they're already among us.